presidential debates. Really, they were more like tightly controlled joint news conferences than debates in the classic sense of the word. And while there may have been some revealing moments that swung some voters this year, they happened in spite of a stifling set of debate edicts drafted by the Commission on Presidential Debates, funded by corporate America, and controlled by the major parties. Enter the calls for reform. Spearheading the effort is George Farah, founder of Open Debates, a nonpartisan group looking at ways to take the partisanship out of the debate process. George, good to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Let's talk about the good old days. I guess you would call them the good old days. Back to really 1980s, probably the last time we had a pure debate environment with the League of Women Voters. And it is this man, John Anderson, independent candidate that year, who had a great deal of popularity for an independent candidate, insisting on being a part of the debates. The League of Women Voters, an independent organization, said sure. And that's really what started the whole thing crumbling, right?
Absolutely. The League was put in a very difficult position. A majority of American voters wanted to see Anderson included in the 1980 presidential debates. President Jimmy Carter, however, refused to debate Anderson, and the League had a dilemma. Did it capitulate to the President of the United States, or does it respect the wishes of the American people? Well, the League listened to the American people. It invited Anderson to a debate. Carter refused to show up. The League went forward anyway and hosted a debate between Anderson and Ronald Reagan that attracted over 50 million viewers. And at that point, the party said, we don't want a women's organization telling our boys who they could participate with. 4 years later, the League of Women Voters chastised publicly the candidates for vetoing 68 proposed panelists, and that was the last straw that broke the camel's back.
And the rest is history. What we have now is this Commission on Presidential Debates, which is essentially the parties themselves, the two major parties, and which brings us to your bill of particulars, or at least a portion of it. Let's take a look at some of the complaints that you have, that you see problems with the CPD, or the Commission on Presidential Debates. We talked about this issue of excluding popular candidates. Running through the list, the CPD, created by the major parties, CPD gives candidates absolute control, and then it's financed by the corporations. Let's talk about, because the major party issue is fairly straightforward. Let's talk about this absolute control issue. Clearly, there's a conflict of interest that is inherent in all of this. And what is the net result? What do we see in the actual debates that is a function of the candidates having this much control?
First, obviously, as you mentioned, Miles, there are no third-party challengers, irrespective of popular support for those candidates. 64% wanted to see Nader Buchanan in 2000, excluded. Three-quarters of American people want to see Ross Perot, 96, excluded. And respect to format, these candidates are terrified of making a mistake in front of tens of millions of voters. So they're $10,000 a month political consultants, they're high-paid campaign managers, do whatever they can to sanitize them. In last night's debates, the candidates addressed each other once. There was one follow-up question. They're prohibited from questioning each other. And as a result, they end up reciting a series of memorized sound bites. Wrong war, wrong time, wrong place. Outsourcing to Afghanistan. The American people deserve better. We're not supposed to be just seeing foreign policy speeches. We're supposed to be seeing these candidates thinking on their feet in front of tens of millions of voters. And that's the way the League used to structure the debates, with aggressive follow-up questions, rebuttals and surrebuttals, so you got past the memorized soundbite.
All right, let's talk about this notion of corporations financing the debates. I don't think a lot of people are aware of that. I think they probably assume that little box you check on your 1040 is helping pay for these debates. Not so. And how does corporate financing of these debates perhaps taint them?
It's outrageous to have corporations who have regulatory interests in the White House and in Congress financing our most sacred public forums. Anheuser-Busch has foot the bill for a debate since 1988. And you have Anheuser-Busch girls at these debate sites wearing skimpy outfits, passing out pamphlets denouncing beer taxes and getting reporters, frankly, drunk in the Anheuser-Busch tents. This is not appropriate. When the League ran the show, you had pristine sites. Second, you have CEOs sitting in the audience. They get to rub shoulders with politicos and post-debate parties. The reason why these corporations are giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to the Commission on Presidential Debates isn't just because they want to prove their civic image. They see it as a bipartisan political contribution. When the League asked for corporate money, they got $3-4 grand. They never got this massive amount. And it's worth noting that one of the co-chairs of the Commission on Presidential Debates, Frank Fahrenkopf, is the nation's leading gambling lobbyist. When I asked him, is it all right to have Anheuser-Busch and Philip Morris paying for our most sacred public forums, he said, boy, I'm the head of the gambling lobby. You're asking the wrong guy.
Well, the key here is for the corporations, they want that quid pro quo. So in making a donation, which both parties can lay claim to, it's the perfect kind of donation for a corporation, I imagine. Let's a final thought here, though. Do you think that your cause was helped or hindered by the way the 4 debates unfolded this season? Do you think that there will be renewed calls for reform, and do they have a snowball's chance?
I think it's actually been a stellar year. This is the first year in 16 years there's been organized opposition with my organization, the Citizens Debate Commission, and 60 other civic groups part of the debate reform movement. For the first time in 16 years, and no small part to the movement's work, the Memorandum of Understanding, the complex 32-page, ridiculous, and anti-democratic contract that was drafted by the candidates, was made public. And exposing a fraud is the first step.
And it really was. Reading it, it was absurd. Reading
it was absurd.
It made the baseball rules look like they were, you know, something less than arcane.
Exactly. So that was the first step. And the second thing is we got 4 moderators this time because we bashed the commission for allowing the candidates to always choose Jim Lehrer. Bob Schieffer did a wonderful job yesterday raising issues like income inequality, immigration, gun control, minimum wage. They hadn't been touched in years, and we applaud him for doing so even despite the confines of the format. So I think the 2 steps forward is the beginning, and not to mention the networks having the guts to show a split screen despite the candidates' restrictions. So we have gotten 3 victories. It's the beginning. We're going to have a Citizens Debate Commission in control of our most respected public forums in the next 2 or 3 election cycles.
All right, George Farah, you're obviously not done. Your work just begins now that the debate season is over. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Good luck
Miles.
with the cause there.
Thank you.